and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how to get attention from the press, a little bit about my background, and how you can get PR for your startup. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I did a journalism degree in London and graduated in 2005. And I had an older brother who was into entrepreneurship and technology, and I really got the tech bug. And I started a tech blog, and we became a media partner of TechCrunch, which is a tech publication. And so we started to produce content for TechCrunch. I also started to produce content for the Telegraph newspaper. And then I really got the tech bug, and I decided to move to Silicon Valley, and I persuaded the Next Web, who I had hosted their annual conference in Amsterdam, to give me a job as the Silicon Valley video director. So I went out to Silicon Valley in 2008 and ran around with my video camera, interviewing people like Mark Zuckerberg, Brian Chesky, Travis Kinlack, the founders of Uber and Airbnb, when they had sort of 2 or 3 employees and were working out of a co-working space like Innovation Labs. So it was a really exciting time to be out in Silicon Valley. And, you know, I've seen these small startups grow into global dominant brands. So it's really exciting. So think outside of the box, literally. This is what a typical journalist's inbox will look like. I think my unread inbox is now up to something like 50,000 emails. But journalists are very busy people. They are going here, there, and everywhere to different events. They're getting lots of hundreds of pictures from startups in their inbox. So you need to think about how you can connect with them outside of the inbox, whether that be on social media. I think generally from a psychology perspective, journalists love being connected with on social media because that's where all our egos lie. So if you can connect with a journalist on social media before you just send them a cold email, that's probably much better way to connect with them. Also at events, you know, obviously we all know that nothing can beat a face-to-face connection. You just can't beat it having met someone over sending a cold email. So think outside of the box. Have an interesting story. So this is Michael Arrington, who is a founder of TechCrunch. He's one of Silicon Valley's biggest journalists. So he said, "I'm not a journalist, I'm an entertainer." And I think that's a really interesting quote. At the end of the day, a journalist is telling a story. And if your story is boring, to be blunt, it's not going to cut through. It's not going to connect to people and reach people. So think about what the human connection is in your story. You know, why would it entertain someone reading the article? If it's just a boring press release with some spiel about the industry, it's not really going to capture the attention. So you need to think about how your tech startup, how your story relates to what's going on in the world right now, why it's relevant, what other news stories have there been on this topic. So really think about the bigger picture when you're pitching your story to journalists. Do you think of unusual ways to launch? So I think I once calculated how many new apps are launched in the world globally every single day. And I think it's something like nearly 4,000 new apps are launched globally in the world every single day. So you've got a lot of competition. There's a lot of noise out there. And if you're not doing something unusual or doing something, you know, risk-taking, then you're not gonna make any noise. You're not gonna capture attention. So this was a startup called Huddle that I helped launch in America. What we did is we thought, you know, how can the small startup Huddle, who was a competitor of Microsoft SharePoint, how can we get the attention of the industry? So Microsoft SharePoint was having its global annual conference at the convention center in Anaheim, Los Angeles. And we decided to hire a 120-person marching band with Huddle t-shirts and huddle where you can see what they're wearing, kind of like bikinis. We marched this 120 marching band into the Microsoft SharePoint conference. And actually, Microsoft called the police. The police came. They were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And it was front page news all over TechCrunch back in the 2000s. So it definitely did what we set out to do, and it was definitely risk taking, and it was a bit of fun as well. And we ended up on the front page of TechCrunch. So yeah, that was, a really fun way, a fun stunt that we did to get attention. Do sell press the bigger picture. So earlier I was talking about, how is your story relevant to what's going on in the world right now, what's happened locally, what's happened internationally. I think one of the job of a PR person like myself is to keep an eye on, what's going on in the world right now, the zeitgeist, what other tech companies are doing, keeping an eye on, which companies are going bust, which companies are growing. So when you're pitching an idea to a journalist, make sure you're selling the bigger picture. So this could be a story about how petrol cars are being hauled off the streets because they're no longer needed. But how does that relate to the world we're moving to? So it could relate to a carbon neutral world where we're trying to switch to electric cars. So you can see the difference in the way that's being pitched. So one good practical thing that you can do is make a spreadsheet of all the press that you're aiming for, and you can use ChatGPT to help with this. So make a spreadsheet of all the press outlets that you're aiming for, and then all the journalists that work for those publications. Make a spreadsheet. Most journalists write about one sort of beat or topic. So for example, Mark, yours is quite niche, app analysis. You could find a journalist that writes specifically about agencies who are building apps. So it's just about finding that person and tracking them down, basically. Mandeep, you could find a journalist who was writing about wellness tech, or about technology that's for bettering people's health. And, make sure you do, basically you've got to do your research behind the journalist before you pitch them. Sean, you could look for publications that are specifically about chronic pain, migraine, or even influencers that are talking about migraine, chronic pain, and you can reach out to them. So yeah, you've got to do a little bit of research. And as I said, ChatGPT can help, LinkedIn can help. I was actually searching a journalist for one of my clients who was writing at UKTN News this morning. So I went on LinkedIn, I searched UKTN News, and then I basically sent cold emails to the journalist, like saying, "Hey, I'm launching a new app. Can I connect with you?" So there are kind of like little hacks that you can do to reach out to the journalists. So don't assume conversations are off the record. So as soon as you start talking to a journalist, they can write down whatever you're saying. So if there's something specifically like a part of your product that you don't want public, you have to make that very clear from the beginning. Some tech companies try and get journalists to sign NDAs. It doesn't really work too well. But if you're reaching out to a journalist and there's a part of your product that you really don't want out there, you need to say specifically, this conversation's off the record. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all, basically. There have been instances in the past where a PR or a tech founder has reached out to a journalist, and there are parts of their product that got launched before they wanted to. So just be aware of that. Don't launch at a bad time. So again, if you're launching your company, you need to check out which other startups or tech companies are launching at the same time as you. There's a story here about Google Glass launching when Apple launched their new iPhone a few years ago, and Google Glass basically didn't get any press, and it just wasn't the launch they were expecting, and it failed, basically. So you need to do your research about, you know, other events that are happening at the same time as your launch or when you're wanting to launch, and just be aware of what else is going on around you, both locally and internationally. Don't misunderstand lead times. So a lot of companies think, oh, our PR will just reach out to the press and we'll get a press piece like that. Actually, journalists normally have like 6 weeks of content scheduled in terms of what they're writing about for the next 6 weeks. So you can't just email them and expect them to get you in straight away. You have to understand that they've got lead times, and your press release will take lead times to land. So so when you first get in contact with a journalist, you need to expect sort of an average is around sort of 4 to 6 weeks, but it could be shorter and it could be longer depending on what they've got, what they've got on their workload. So again, just be aware of that. Don't go too big with a launch party. So I think again, this just goes back to understanding the zeitgeist of what's going on. This was a startup who did a big launch party, did a big press launch, but ended up getting negative headlines because it was just too much. I think they had like, I think it was a wellness startup, and they had like doctors in white coats giving people vodka shots, as you can see here. And yeah, didn't get received very well. So again, you know, if you were launching like an eco tech startup that was trying to limit the amount of microplastics in the world, and then you did a big launch party with plastic cups and plastic whatever else, you know, that probably wouldn't land very well. So just be aware that journalists will pick up on those small details. This is referring to raising investment. So you can see here that Punch has been acquired by Google. So one of the Google investors got iced by some startup founders in Silicon Valley. And it was a big joke, and the investor just loved it, and it got recorded and went viral on social media. So I think it's just important to remember that VCs and journalists are humans too. They like fun and they like to do fun things. So just remember that when you're trying to make contact with them and form relationships, that you can do some fun stuff with them, and they are human at the end of the day. Do a TV show. So yes, a lot of people think TV is dead, but I think it's still a very good channel to get your brand out there. Social media obviously is a much cheaper and easier way to get a message out there. But if you get the option to do a TV show, definitely do it, because it will elevate your brand to that household name, that international level. So Mark, I don't know if there are any TV shows about apps that you could piggyback on. Mandeep, there are a lot of TV shows about cancer. So maybe you could do some research there and see if you can get the app featured on TV show somehow. See who else is in here. There could be a TV show about chronic pain or migraine that you can tune into, Sean. So I still think TV is very powerful, and a lot of TV companies are now looking to do a lot in tech. Like tech is a growing sector. So just think about TV as an avenue for you. Build awesome products and they will sell themselves. So sometimes when a company launches a new feature, you know, the actual company like Uber doesn't put out a press release, but the feature is so amazing that the actual feature will go viral itself and then get written about. So just remember that when you're designing, you know, groundbreaking or awesome products. For example, you know, when Tinder wasn't the first online dating site, there was plenty of Fish and Match.com. But Tinder came along and invented the swipe mechanism where you could just swipe right. And that, you know, they actually trademarked that swipe right is a trademarked name by Tinder Inc. So yeah, if you build products that changes the game in terms of how humans interact with technology, then it will go viral itself. So just remember that when you're building your products. So again, you know, here's me in a hot tub with Richard Branson. Here's me at a tech event in London in the 90s. you know, as I said in the beginning, you can't beat face-to-face networking events. You know, this is Mike Butcher, TechCrunch's editor in the Santa suit. You know, when I was young, I was out at every event, networking with journalists, networking with investors, and just have a bit of fun with it, you know. As I said, VCs and journalists are human too. And you know, at the end of the day, people want to have the most fun with their life as they can. So, so yeah, just think about that. Go and have a beer with the press. Offer to take a journalist out for a beer or a coffee, or you know, don't make it just about a cold email pitch, because they're getting hundreds of those every day. So you need to figure out how you can contact them in a different way. Do offer an exclusive. So offering an exclusive is a really good way to get covered in the tech press. So when you've written your press release and you're pitching a journalist, you know, and you can say like, we want to offer you the exclusive, which basically means they're going to be the first news outlet to write about your startup. So yeah, just don't forget that you've got that power, especially if nobody's written about your startup before, you've kind of got a power to offer them to be the first ones to write about your startup or brand. Do give away free stuff. So if you're doing an event or whatever, get some swag printed, pens. You know, people do take them home and then they pick them up and then they remember them. They say that to make a sale or to make a pitch, someone has got to have seen your brand 3 times. So if they've seen one thing about you online, met you at an event, and then they've got a pen with your brand taken home, you know, that's 3 points of brand recognition. And it kind of solidifies the brand in their mind, and it makes it, it gives it gravitas. So do get some swag and, you know, branded swag printed. Journalists love that stuff. Do start a conversation using social media. So as I said in the beginning, a lot of founders and journalists and investors are very what's the word? Are very vocal on social media. So starting, you know, if they're talking about a subject on LinkedIn or Twitter, X, and you want to, you know, start a conversation with them, that's a really good way to get their attention. So get stuck in the comments and social media, engage with a journalist or an investor that you've identified, and don't be afraid to, you know, to really get in there and, you know, start a debate with something that they're passionate about, because they'll appreciate that. Pitch a contest to your favorite blogger. So bloggers are another way to get your brand out there, and influencers, you know, obviously that's quite a relatively new thing. But yeah, again, bloggers and influencers, you can do a spreadsheet like the journalists, make a spreadsheet of sort of 100 or 50 bloggers or influencers that you could aim to promote your brand, and you know, start putting together a pitch and reaching out to them. Often you don't have to reach someone with millions of followers. You know, for you, Mark, it could be somebody who is passionate about apps, but maybe has 100 or 200 followers, but who ran a blog about apps. And actually the engagement and reach for that smaller audience will be more than if they had a million followers who weren't very engaged. So sometimes influencers with smaller followings can have a bigger effect. And that's me. I think we can spend 5 minutes talking about all of our different startups and what your aims were in terms of press. So Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Have you had any press coverage for App Analysis yet?
Not really. I have been reaching out to some of the tech presses around. I've reached out to Ed Ludlow and Laura from BBC Click. I know it's not BBC Click now and
Yeah.
stuff. And I've had some conversations with them about that, them kind of asking questions and stuff like that. So I think I'm kind of like in that education phase with them
Yeah.
and stuff like
Okay,
that.
that's good.
So yeah, I'm trying to kind of reach out and buying stuff. I usually looking at the tech journalists which turn up on kind of, tech shows or tech events
Yeah,
and stuff. But I think it's really interesting, like you say, to find like those bloggers
yeah,
and stuff to try to kind of find one with that. It's actually a bit relevant because I was watching App Masters and they do an audit of blogs, and I happened to come across them accidentally, and I'm like, I need to reach out to you because you're doing this. Maybe there's some synergy there. So I was going to have a go to try to find. So yeah, the comment what you said about blogs, this was a person doing a podcast. So I was like,
oh yeah,
yes, that's kind of similar.
yeah. Podcasts have exploded as well. Yeah, definitely. Podcasts are good.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of find out who are the right groups. I've also tried to get in front of app promotions,
Yeah,
the business of apps and stuff like that, but they've been rather shy, but I don't think I've managed to find the hook with them yet.
yeah.
The same hooks which worked with Ed Ludlow didn't work with them.
Right.
It did.
What?
I know.
Yeah. What's your hook for Ed Lundo?
I was talking about building a community and a movement around software data to feed AI. And I know that he's really big into tech and AI things, so that kind of really kind of ticked his box. And that's what he's kind of interested in. And he was asking about what's my angle with Perplexity and Tom Brown.
Yeah,
Yeah, given the kind of context. So those are the things we've been discussing. But at the minute, the business of apps people are being a bit quiet. So yeah, I'm trying to work out how to get in because they talk about apps all the time.
yeah. Is that Masters a TV show or is that a podcast?
App Masters is a podcast.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that would be a good one, definitely.
Yep.
If you've got a press release and you want me to have a look over it,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Jenny, what kind of press are you doing for the startup?
Can you hear me now, by the way?
Yes, I can.
I plugged in one of my many microphones. So we haven't actually done any like outreach or anything to do with press yet, but I've been researching journalists in game development and game development publications. Like there's quite a few really niche publications that are literally called like the Game Developer Magazine and stuff like that. So I'm trying to find, like you said, specific journalists that would cover like more business and marketing side.
Good.
But also we've got some like research that around that we could like maybe spin a story out of, like how many games it takes to be successful as a game developer, that kind of thing, that Ross has done research on.
Good.
So yeah, it's we haven't started it yet, but my plan next year is there's quite a lot of awards that we could apply for, maybe to add a bit more sort of press around that as
Yeah.
well. And I really love your suggestion when we had our session about doing like a when we start working with West Suffolk College, which is
Yeah.
still ongoing because it's really slow with the university system, but I really want to look at like maybe some local press around that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd really like to get in with like all these game developer publications. And since you mentioned podcasts and like Mark, you've just mentioned podcasts as well, that's a really good point because there are some really good podcasts out there that we could reach out to for specifically for game developers as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
So
think you'll find I mean, traditional journalists are quite hard to pitch, whereas like influencers,
sure.
podcasts, Twitchers,
Yeah.
YouTubers, much easier to reach out to.
Absolutely. Yeah, YouTubers, because there's quite a few really influential ones as well. So yeah. Oh yeah, thanks, Lewis. I will head towards Twitch.
Brilliant. Mandeep, where are you with press? Because you've already had quite a lot of press for the app, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. It's been a bit more sort of local press and on the radio. So that's been really, really great. But what we've done is we're going to be a little bit quiet with press until our tickets are live for the world record that we're going to attempt next year in April.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, we're building the world's first cancer app for dating and friendship. And next year in April, we want to break the world record of the largest human cancer bow. At the moment, it's held at 8,264 people in Dubai, and we would love, love, love to get 10K. But even if we got 8,500, that would be amazing. And it's all happening Trinity Park. So Hermione, it was really interesting what you said about the launch, because Simple Click in Ipswich, they're building our app. And we are really, the time crunch is so on, but we kind of have had the discussion if that world record could be our crazy launch or pre-launch,
Yeah,
depending on if they get it ready or not. So we've got to be really careful that we don't rush it and that we test it and make sure it all works.
yeah,
But if it was the pre-launch, I was actually in the middle of just writing a email to you to say, could we have a chat about, is that still valid to have as a pre-launch, or would that water it down if the app wasn't ready?
yeah.
Don't know what your thoughts are about that.
You could definitely have a pre-launch. You could start a wait list, which is a really good thing to do. So if you could just get people to enter their email on your site, you know, with all the attention from the event, direct them to the waitlist page, and then you've got that, you know, 100 person or 500 people mailing list to email about the app when it launches. That's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, because when the app's ready, you want to have, you know, you want to get 500 users when you have that influx of users. So a wait list would be really good if the app's not quite ready yet.
Yeah, we were thinking the same. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But to answer your question, I think we're in the middle of writing a press release. So once the tickets go live for that event, we just pretty much go nuclear. But I loved all your ideas on just being relevant to journalists and being more personal and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's a very relevant topic because cancer rates globally are going through the roof, and yeah, I think you should invite lots of press to your event as well. Like BBC Suffolk would love that. Yeah, just make sure that you got lots of press there on the day because it's going to be quite a big thing, you know, setting a world record.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder if the Guinness Book of World Records can invite some press on your behalf as well. They've probably got a lot of great contacts.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, Sean, what are you guys doing for press?
Funny, it's actually a topic of conversation that we've got tomorrow. But so far, something that was in the work before I joined was being in Top Santa magazine, which went out earlier this month.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who works in PR for a luxury jewelry brand, and
Yeah.
they're going to connect me to all of the people that I need to, different magazines,
Yeah.
particularly the wellness ones. But to be honest, it could fit in quite a lot of different ones. So like Women's Health, we've actually got
Yeah.
something planned in there at the end of the year. But yeah, we want to just try and spread out as far and as wide as possible.
There's a really good podcast called The Cure for Chronic Pain with Nicole Sachs. She's American, but she's got a huge following, millions. She talks a lot about migraine and everything. So that would be quite good.
Okay, good. Yeah, short of that, I don't think we've looked into much else. I'm just trying to think. We've got a couple of events that are going specifically for practitioners to enable the practitioners on how to deal with migraines. So we've got one event that we're going to in a couple of weeks, which is the second largest chiropractic event in the UK.
Yeah.
We're going to a couple more next year.
Yeah.
Again, just raising awareness because we think that a lot of our clients are going to possibly come through doctors themselves. So we're pushing that kind of side, but there's loads of different ways. And then we're looking to go to some, what are they called? EAP events. So employee wellness events that focus on products that can actually improve the well-being of their who are they called employees.
Yeah.
So we're working with somebody who's been to quite a few. So we're looking at nailing some of those days in. So some of the events to go to.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, again, if you've got a press release that you want me to look through, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, we definitely haven't. Not yet. So probably something we need to put on that docket as well.
Great.
Ever-growing docket.
Yeah.
Just on a side, Mandeep, in terms of your app potentially being ready or not ready, one thing, and I'm sure you probably thought about this, but list out all of the non-negotiables that you might want in your features of the app, because it's not like it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% to get out, but if you get users on there sooner, with an app that is functional and all of the other fluff that you want to add into it can wait after the facts, then you've got a launch available for that event. I think that's going to bring a lot of attention to it.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for that, Sean. We have got a first version that we want to go live with all those non-negotiables, and then to keep interest going one at a time, we're going to add all the different features because they're all brilliant, to be honest. But we also want to use that as an opportunity to get feedback from the community and the users, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are important. So that will guide us on what will be next to launch for the version 2, etc., etc. So yeah, thanks, Sean.
All right.
Lewis Huxtable.
Hello.
Hello.
That's a really
What's your product?
so I'm with Osama and Darlington, the intelligent
Okay.
training system.
Yeah.
Journalism is a really good question. It's not something that's really necessarily come across our mind at the moment. We're almost on a point where we were going to try and almost make our own by having a podcast that we wanted to do that was in the same genre, but we were able to use that for branding and marketing and make it part of a vocal point, but also having other reasons to come to us. But it's a really good question. I guess more on the question what we have, because we haven't explored the areas, is how do we go about accessing journalists, I guess, is where we're probably at right now, because we could find them down, but like Mark has mentioned, throwing out hooks, etc. Maybe that's the best way about making ourselves sound interesting. But we've never not really come across that yet. I used to do when I used to work at an ecom and I used to work there, we used to use this system called something like, it was something along the lines of reach out to a journalist or get a journalist involved or something like that. But what it is, journalists would sign up to this system, say what they were doing a piece on, and then you would sign up as an email recipient, and then it was and they were looking for experts, so people that wanted, and you would comment on that. But that always seemed so watered down and such a competitive thing to really sell yourself on, where I don't really think that's a beneficial way for what we want. I think that's more of an individual trying to appear as a subject matter expert. So yeah, so I don't really know really, journalism wise, outside of doing our own thing, we haven't really thought about it yet. And I don't know how we'd get there is a real good question.
Yeah. Darlington, have you got any thoughts? You're on mute.
Sorry. In-house, we've thought about podcasts. We've thought about starting conversations on social media on different topics related to how do people or how do stakeholders or human resource managers try to teach, train, onboard, and test their staff. We are looking at talking to stakeholders one-on-one. Different things to create awareness around what we are trying to do for now. So we are at that stage where we are trying to still understand how can we get to the pain point. So we can also use that to create like a lot of attention to what we are trying to do. By, starting different conversations, like I said, on social media. But like Louis said, we are trying to look for like the right channels to do it through, so we don't overcook things too early.
I've noticed a lot of B2B companies are doing podcasts now. We've got one at Innovation Labs called Zscaler, and they've launched a podcast that's been really successful. And they've got sort of an influencer in cybersecurity to host it. So I think even the corporates and the B2Bs are now doing more sort of social media and podcasting, and it's working really well. So, but it's just about making it human,
Yeah.
Okay, last person. Alex, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's still something that we haven't really thought about too much in terms of journalism. There's lots of, or there's some small parts of the app that we're still ironing out. Some of the key features of like push notifications at the right time and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But initially, my kind of idea was to go really heavy on the social media side. So this would
Yeah.
be like TikTok influencers, Instagram Reels, paying some small influencers in the lawn care and
Yeah.
DIY sector
Yeah.
to actually use the app and kind of make a story about how they transform their project by using it.
Yeah.
At the same time, being quite active, commenting and making sure I'm active in the comments on those social media posts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to actually get a plan together to reach out to like local press, get some UK coverage because it's
Yeah.
a consumer app. So there's not much of the there's a huge target, and yeah, we need to reach out to most of it. So.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it could do quite well actually with, you know, British people love their lawns. So there could be quite a humorous element in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I hope that's given you all some food for thought. If any of you want to write a press release or want me to help you write one, I'm happy to do that. If any of you have written a press release and you want me to review it, I'm happy to do that. If any of you want me to help you find the most relevant journalists, I'm happy to do that. So also, you know, I can actually pitch some local press on your behalf. Last cohort, we got one startup in the East Anglia Daily Times, and then we got 2 covered by ipswich.co.uk. So if those are appealing to you, I can definitely help you there as well. So just let me know. And yeah, I hope you have a great, what day is it today? Monday.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Hermione. That was
Thank
Brilliant.
awesome.
You.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Hermione.
Thanks,
Bye.
Marnie.
Bye.
Bye.